Welcome to The Explainer. Let's dive right in. Today, we're taking a mountain of global health data and distilling it into a precision lifestyle blueprint for your heart. We're talking about the exact, hard science behind what keeps our cardiovascular engine running at peak performance. So, what does it actually take to build a bulletproof heart? The real answers are usually buried in super dense medical journals or lost in a sea of conflicting online advice. So today, we're cutting through the noise. Let's look at what the clinical data actually says about the exact measurable actions required to protect our body's most critical organ. No guesswork here, guys, just pure science-backed strategy. We're going to break this all down into 4 core pillars. First, heart-healthy nutrition. Then, essential cardiovascular exercises. After that, the power of sleep and daily habits. And finally, managing heart conditions. All right. Let's jump straight into Pillar 1, heart-healthy nutrition. Look, every single bite you take essentially programs your cardiovascular system for either resilience or vulnerability. It's that simple. And the clinical guidelines from UW Health point us directly to the DASH diet. That stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Now, what's totally fascinating here is that while this was created specifically to lower blood pressure, the clinical data proves it also actively, aggressively lowers your risk of heart attacks and strokes. It's a real game changer. When we actually look at the daily macros for this, the sheer volume of plant-based food is honestly pretty striking. The guidelines emphasize 6 to 8 servings of whole grains and a massive 8 to 10 combined servings of fruits and veggies every single day. Meanwhile, lean meats are capped at just 6 ounces, so it's really about heavily shifting your plate toward nutrient-dense whole foods that actively nourish your vascular system. Now for the magic number, 2,300. That is the maximum amount of sodium, in milligrams, that you should be consuming daily on this plan. But, actually, here's an even better target. If you can push that down to 1,500 milligrams, it becomes this highly targeted weapon against high blood pressure. By ditching the salt shaker and swapping in herbs, spices, maybe a squeeze of citrus, you're dramatically reducing the physical workload on your arterial walls. And a huge part of this first pillar involves totally rethinking fat. The data clearly shows we don't need to fear all fats, right? Instead, unsaturated fats. We're talking olive oil, avocados, fish. These actually help clear out your arteries and support cellular growth. The key is simply limiting the saturated and trans fats, like the stuff in beef, pork, and butter, because those are the ones actively building up plaque in your cardiovascular system. And hey, speaking of healthy fats, look at this staggering data on nuts. There was this massive 32-year Harvard study involving over 210,000 people. It revealed that eating just a small handful of nuts 4 to 7 times a week lowers your total cardiovascular disease risk by 14% and your coronary heart disease risk by a whopping 20%. Why? Well, nuts are packed with a substance called L-arginine, which literally keeps your arterial walls flexible and stops dangerous blood clots from forming. How wild is that? Okay, moving right along to Pillar 2, essential cardiovascular exercises. So we've got our nutritional foundation. Now it's time to put that high-quality fuel to work. Listen, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to build a bulletproof heart. The data points to one specific magic number, and that's 150. The American Heart Association explicitly recommends 150 minutes of moderate physical activity every single week as your baseline. It's that consistency that trains your heart muscle to pump more efficiently over time. And the great news is you've got a huge menu of options to hit that number. Just a simple 30-minute daily walk cuts your heart disease risk by 19%. Yoga poses, like the bridge or child's pose, are clinically proven to dial down nervous system stress. But here's a truly surprising takeaway for you. Even basic stretching acts as a cardiovascular workout. When you stretch your muscles, it promotes the production of nitric oxide. That's a compound that actively dilates your blood vessels and reduces arterial stiffness, just from stretching. That brings us to Pillar 3. The power of sleep and daily habits. We so often ignore what happens when we're just resting. But this data from a 15-year Hanyang University study, which tracked nearly 10,000 people, completely shatters a really common myth. We all know sleep deprivation is terrible for us. Sleeping under 7 hours increases early mortality risk by 28%. But get this. Oversleeping, as in consistently getting more than 8 hours, is almost identically dangerous. It increases mortality risk by 27%. Too much sleep can actually be a red flag for underlying unmanaged health issues. So the absolute sweet spot to prevent systemic inflammation, regulate your autonomic nervous system, and maximize your lifespan, it's precisely 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But there's a catch. Here, it has to be highly regular. Going to bed and waking up at the exact same time every day is just as critical as the duration when it comes to keeping your heart rhythms perfectly in sync. And beyond sleep, your everyday maintenance matters immensely. Wearing a smartwatch to monitor your resting heart rate gives you incredible baseline insights. Obviously, avoiding smoke is absolutely crucial because those chemicals directly destroy blood vessel cells. And you'll definitely want to keep alcohol in check to prevent arrhythmias. But honestly, perhaps the most surprising daily habit? Brushing and flossing. Clinical research actually shows that poor oral hygiene lets aggressive gum bacteria march straight into your bloodstream, causing systemic inflammation that can literally trigger heart attacks. So don't skip the floss.
Now, let's look at Pillar 4, managing heart conditions.
For those who are actively managing a compromised cardiovascular condition, like heart failure, where the heart is literally struggling to pump, the diet has to shift with extreme precision. In these cases, fats are strictly limited to under 25% of total daily calories. Why? Because digesting heavy fats requires immense intense energy from the body. By reducing the digestive workload, you're directly reducing the burden placed on a weakened heart muscle. Managing heart failure also demands intense, highly specific daily tracking. Patients need to weigh themselves every single morning. A sudden jump of, say, 1 to 1.5 kilograms in just 2 or 3 days, that is a massive red flag for dangerous fluid retention. Fluids themselves are usually restricted to about 1 to 1.25 liters a day. And here is a vital, lesser-known fact. You have to avoid gas-producing foods like beans or heavily carbonated drinks. Why? Because an inflated, gassy stomach can physically push your diaphragm upward against the chest cavity, putting direct, dangerous pressure on the heart itself. Ultimately, the core philosophy of everything we've unpacked today is summarized perfectly by the American Heart Association. True cardiovascular resilience, it isn't about one perfect meal. It's not about one grueling workout. It is all about the overall, consistent, compounding pattern of your daily choices over years and decades. So looking at this blueprint, from the plant-heavy DASH diet and stretching for that nitric oxide boost to hitting your regular 7 to 8 hour sleep sweet spot and, yes, flossing your teeth, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Which single habit will you track, change, or improve tonight to protect your heart? Pick just one, start there, and start building your bulletproof heart. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.